Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has been under fire for paying subsidy on petroleum products without legislative approval.
Absolutely. State governors are calling for a thorough probe of these oil subsidy payments from 2015 to date. They accuse the NNPC of fraudulently doubling the nation's daily petrol consumption from about 30 million litres to 60 million litres.
Yes, indeed. And a delegation of the governors led by the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum, NGF, and Governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, briefed journalists after a closed-door meeting with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the presidential villa some days ago. Yari also disclosed that the Directorate of Petroleum Resources, DPR, had also been directed to immediately shut down all petrol stations located within 10 kilometers of the nation's borders until they are recertified.
We met last week with the NNPC, and we come and brief our chairman of the Economic Council that we raised three issues. One, about the issue of payment of royalties. Each and every barrel taken out of the country, that is either 17 or 20% of it as royalty, and there's also 17 or 20% of as tax. So our main concern, the DPR made it very, very clear to us that NNPC is not remitting anything payment of royalty, but what they do, they transmit direct from NNPC to Federation account. So, which is not allowed by the law.
Okay.
Yes, we still have Chris Kende Nwandu, of course, with us in the studio. He's a journalist. The governor's there sticking it to the NNPC. How did you get that story when it first broke out?
To me, that was worrisome because this was the same thing we accused the former government of doing. Even become more worrisome when you realize that from statistics that being spread around, we have over 800 billion already spent on subsidy. Then, looking back, I remember that in 2014, during the election campaign, I think it was at Chatham House, when President Buhari was asked about the issue of subsidy, and he said there's never been anything like subsidy or subsidy, that anybody that has such information should bring it forward, that he doesn't believe in oil subsidy and he doesn't know anything about oil subsidy, and there can never be oil subsidy. Then coming out with these allegations from the governors after the NEC meeting, then coupled with the fact that over the years, the greatest problem we had, one of the greatest problems we had, challenges we had under the last regime was on the issue of oil subsidies. So many people did their hands into the public purse, collected billions and billions of naira or even dollars, and under these guys are oil subsidy and the rest of them, and only for us to realize that they were not subsidizing anything and they were not bringing in the products.
So now the bone of contention for the governors is, how did we even jump from 35 million litres a day to consuming 60 million litres, only to discover that there is a proliferation of filling stations around Nigeria's borders. Now they've ordered, well, not now, they've always ordered, the DPR even actually gave the order that these filling stations should be shut. Nothing has been done about that. No. Does that mean that Nigeria has been paying subsidy for petrol consumed in other West African countries, including Ghana, Cameroon, and the rest of them?
Yes, the further investigation should also reveal that ordinarily, initially it was said that our daily consumption was 35 million. Now, analysts have come to put together that even if Nigeria is supplying Nigeria, Chad, Niger and Cameroon and Ghana, about 5 West African countries or Central African countries, those bordering us, but that there is no way they are going to consume
more than
35 million. Yeah. Now, how come we jump from 35 to 60 million? But the NNPC, as expected, came out like the ostrich to have an answer to that, and they told us, oh, because it was a porous border, and so are you not telling me that 35, just minus 35 from 60, that is almost half?
Yeah, about half
of higher. This thing is what you are sending out, that people are taking out abroad, and now that brings to question the quality and the type of people we had. One of the greatest challenges, when people talk of corruption, people say, oh, people build this around policemen that collect 20 naira on checkpoints and the rest of them and say, oh, the police is corrupt. I'm telling you for real that one of the most, if not the most corrupt entity in Nigeria is the NNPC. And that is why so many people have been refusing to allow this EDVs to be unbundled.
Yeah.
Okay, look at the PIB bill that has been at the National Assembly since 1999. Yes. Every year, every successive, this is the 7th or 8th National Assembly. The 8th Assembly. Successively, they will take it to a point, and that'll be the end of that assembly, and they collapse. And you know the way it works. You don't continue. There's no continue. You start afresh. And some people have been pumping billions and billions of naira into the National Assembly to make sure that this is not passed. That bill is not passed. If that bill is passed, it's going to. In fact, they got to a point that we had about 5 or 6 versions of the PIB. That shows you how powerful some individuals and the rest of them. And people have been saying that there is the need for us to just bring and sensitize this corporation. Then, just last year, the Minister of State for Petroleum and the GMD of NNPC, we had loggerheads on figures. I hope you remember.
Later on, somehow the Ibe Kachuku stopped talking, and then Baru came out to boldly say that there was nothing of such.
They felt that it was an embarrassment to the federal government, but the man made it clear. He said it.
And since then, we've not
had anything. And
it has
not worked.
All right.
I even want to talk about the excuse NNPC gave that they are producing 60, consuming 60 million liters per day. To porous borders. Does it make any sense, really? Is NNPC necessarily telling Nigerians that they are aiding smuggling or somehow? Because that is what we don't understand. Because for years, it's been established that our petrol, finished fuel, has been smuggled on a daily basis to neighboring countries. So the fact that they are saying that they are now identifying that there are filling stations across the borders or close to the borders isn't even news to many Nigerians.
It's an indictment on them. That's basic. It's an indictment because let us even look at it from the point of statistics. For goodness sake, how many are we? How many people own cars in Nigeria? Okay, you and I know that by Monday, if I fill up my tank, fill it up.
Yes.
If I don't travel, that will take me through the week.
If you don't travel.
That's what I'm saying. If I don't travel, that means that vehicle, that means I'm not going to refill that vehicle for that whole week. And it's the same with other people, except those that
some that own cars don't drive their cars every day.
Exactly. So when you now equate it that is what you consume every day, then that means there's something wrong. It cannot be.
Consistent.
So consistent. They are saying consistent. So what I can adduce from this is that there are some kind of collaboration either between those within the oil industry, the NNPC, and the rest of them. Now, don't forget also, there was a time that it was agreed that all the tankers will be tracked. They will put trackers on all of them. Yes. Remember? You remember there was time that was
tracking
devices on all of them.
Tracking devices.
When we had serious, last time when we had that serious petrol issues, they would say, okay, in fact, it started with we putting on security agents on every tanker. Those living Lagos or living taking petrol.
How practical is that?
But that wasn't practical. So now, if you now say that about 50% of what, and it's not even when we use the word, it's not what we produce, it's not what we are producing. It is what we are importing.
We're paying.
We are paying what we are paying. I think Nigeria should be able to know this. We're not talking of what we are producing because from all indications, we are not producing anything again. These are what we spend our hard-earned currency to import. Then you now say that you import it and people now take it away. So something is wrong. Now, it's an indictment on NNPC, it's an indictment on our security agencies, especially those saddled with the responsibilities. Don't forget that some certain agencies that are saddled with the responsibility. It's not the responsibility of the army. I don't even think it's the responsibility of the police. I know that the civil defense, the immigration, those are some of the agencies that are saddled with some of these responsibilities and to be sure that we police our borders properly and make sure that...
Customs.
Yes, we know that the Nigerian border is so porous. But if tankers... In fact, there was a time I read that about some tankers were arrested with 249,000 liters of fuel being taken out. Okay? Tankers are not just any vehicle that people smuggle from what is it now, Cotonou and pass through the bushes and the rest of them. If they're going to move, they're going to move on a motorized
meaning that it might be some form of syndicate, because laying the blame on the doorstep of NNPC alone might not cut it. Don't you think a wider net should be cast into the sea? For example, the fact that NNPC is required by the Petroleum Act to pay royalties to DPR.
Yes.
Well, instead, and of course, remit the remaining one to the Federation account, but instead is said to be transmitting directs from NNPC to the Federation account. One wonders why the DPR, for so long, didn't say anything about this.
Is the DPR not part of NNPC? Is DPR not part of us? Yes, they have an autonomous managing director or chief executives, which I believe also reports to the GMD of NNPC. So it's within this area. But the fact is that if you listen to what the chairman of governors, for instance, said, they're supposed to remit for every barrel of, for every liter of fuel. They're supposed to be 17 to 21% subsidy. Tax. Okay, that's supposed to pay. Okay, that's supposed to be sent to the DPR. Because that is different. That shouldn't be sent directly to the Federation account. After that has been sent, it is now for the federal government, the three tiers of government, and to share. But when you now send it direct, lump it, and send it to the Federation account, that becomes a problem. Okay?
Yeah, but the NNPC has been alleging that, look, there's nothing illegal going on. All the remittances and all of that is not without the knowledge of the Finance Ministry and, of course, the federal government. So,
if
that's like when they discovered
even with the knowledge,
when you talk about some kind of collusion on whose part?
If you said federal government, it's the federal. Those crying out are not federal government. It's not the federal government that is crying out. It's the state government. Okay, and don't forget, the president is the Minister of Petroleum. Because
the NNPC is answerable to the federal.
That is what I'm telling you.
Specifically, the executive.
The executive. Not even say the executive, because the president, the federal government of Nigeria, the president sitting is the Minister of Petroleum.
Yes.
We only have a Minister of State. And from the NNPC Act, the GMD of NNPC report to the president, not the Minister of State.
In other words, he has all the information required.
He does.
To know about the goings-on within the oil sector generally.
Definitely.
Both with the NNPC, the DPR, the PPP,
he has the figures.
All the agencies.
He has the figures. The president has the figures. So when the governors, they were tactical about it. If you read the body language of the governors, when the governors were talking, they could have directly said, Mr. President, what are you doing to us? But they were tactical about it. Try to apportion the blame
to the NNPC.
Instead of referring to the man.
So what is the solution now? I mean, the DPR has said, close the filling stations 10 kilometers close to the borders. Yes. Will that really solve the problem? Where is the capacity to actually do that? How can you even do that in the first place?
Yes, it can be done.
How?
That is not in totality. That to some extent, because what happens, from what I know, what happens that they have the possibility. There's the possibility that those fuel, most of this fuel, I'm not saying the so-called 25 million that they are talking about, which I don't believe, NNPC. Some of those fuels get dumped on those tanks during the day. In the night, I believe they are not transferred across the border. Okay, so if there is no place,
identified borders or the unidentified borders.
Unidentified. There's no. I say our borders so porous.
So porous. That's what they're saying. So how do you? They identified about 1,400 borders.
No, even more than that.
More than that. They're saying at least the ones they have identified. There are still unidentified borders as well. So how do you affect this?
The whole thing starts with the NNPC, because these tankers leave from depots. What we can do is tracking those vehicles and making sure that where they are asked, For goodness sake,
yeah, they've been tracked, but yet nothing happened. Who monitors the tracking?
That's what I'm saying.
If you leave it to the NNPC to solve this problem, we will never really get a solution.
Yeah. Being the judge in your own
absolutely,
case.
which seems to be the trend. You know, you accuse the military of all kinds of things, and the military sets up committees within itself. And gives itself a clean bill of health. So how much do you expect the NNPC to do when it comes to solving this problem on a long-term basis, not just, you know, short-term solutions?
It is now, the ball is back to the governors. Don't forget, there are also a caveat. If you check out the release, they said they may be forced to start handling issue of oil subsidy within their states. They said that as that statement now. They've said that. Okay. What I expect the Governors Forum to do is to liaise with the NNPC, probably to set up a task force to do this. Listen, for every tanker that leaves NNPC, it must be identified. There are places that those fuel have been taken are supposed to take into.
Yeah,
it's not a rocket science job. You are living here. You are living Lagos. When you are going to, if you are going to Owerri, there's a place where that
a simple phone call can
that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, it's going to from Lagos to Owerri. How many hours is it supposed to take? Okay, probably let's give it about 10 hours. Worst case scenario for a tanker, 10 hours. Yeah. Okay, so I am saying that by 10 p.m. you must have arrived Owerri at this point. Who is the depot manager of that station? What is his phone number? That tanker driver, the depot manager, and the rest.
Well, don't you think even before I get to the depot manager, the deal would have been sealed, signed, sealed, and delivered, so that the depot manager has no choice than to carry out the directives already that have been
those are where the issues are. If those where were not delivered at the point where they were supposed to be, both the depot manager and the owners of filling station have questions to answer. You have to tell us where you diverted. So there,
how do you
it's part of corruption. It's corruption.
Exactly.
When we are talking of corruption, corruption is just not arresting people that you say that. This is massive corruption, and that is what is going on.
But how do you clear it up? From what she just said, okay, from this point, from the depot, you've picked oil, you're supposed to go to Owerri to deliver it.
Yes.
But then the person in Owerri is in collusion as well.
So
if they even call or ask a remand for documents, he would still present documents to back whatever claim already made by the truck driver.
Physically, it can be physically. You can look at it, you can see it physically. It's not something, petrol is not something that just disappears.
How many places can they go, can the DPR and other officials go to monitor?
That
you
is
know what Nigerians go through during fuel scarcity. But they rarely go to all filling stations across the country.
And then you find black marketers on the road.
These are 36 state governors.
Yes.
If they know they are losing revenues, most of them cannot even generate more than 2 billion IGR monthly. If that is where they're going to make their money, what stops them from organizing and making sure, right from the state to the local government, that everybody makes sure, and you tell the local government chairman, come, tell me the number of filling stations in your local government. I know fuels will be coming so place. I need to be said, if you are not able to, if we are meant for that area, we are not supplied, then you are not going to get anything from this, either coming from the federal government. I'm telling you that people will sit up. There's a mechanism.
Will that not be a function of devolution of powers or this restructuring that we've been talking about? Because I doubt if the Nigerian governors can actually take it upon themselves to effect that threat that they have actually, come up with. And it's not just these remittances that, we've been talking about when it comes to NNPC and the level of opaqueness and alleged corruption going on there.
Yeah.
The TSA, remember that the NNPC has not been remitting to the TSA account.
Apart from
and
that,
nothing seems to have been done about
and
that.
Also, there are some other agencies that we are also mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, the customs, not only the customs, and some other agencies. This, I also say, is just to show that massive corruption is still going on under this government, irrespective of whatever anybody says. Okay, we cannot seem to be fighting corruption and be fighting corruption in a way and manner that it seems that's only against passive enemies. Okay, the government, the president, the body language of the president is against corruption. He has said that time and time again, and he has proven it. over and over again. But the problem we have seen systematically is that those under him, are they also keen to his body language? Are they also doing what they're supposed to do? All the anti-graft agencies, are they doing it? Apart from, I think I mentioned it here last week, apart from EFCC, which of that? We have
there's
an
ICPC,
SCPC.
there's a CC.
That is where, that is ICPC. ICPC, that's supposed to be where an agency like the ICPC is supposed to focus its attention. Okay, why EFCC focus on the other ones? You know, it's too overwhelming. I saw the EFCC chairman saying last week or there about when they were commissioning this thing that that the agency now is not about the building, it's about the capacity.
And don't forget, the same EFCC has complained over and over again about lack of funding. So, and then you wonder if the anti-corruption agencies are not being properly funded, how much really do you expect them to achieve? Or do you really want them to achieve much other than this whole idea of pursuing perceived enemies?
What I think is each of the anti-corruption agencies to identify their areas of competence and focus on it. And
stay with it.
That's it. And focus on it. In fact, ICPC probably shot itself by foot. I have not read the acts establishing the ICPC, but when I realized what they do is picking up one civil servant and that salary was this thing, and I just realized, I said, these guys don't know, they don't.
But then, Chris,
you understand? I expected that the ICPC as an agency should be able to sit down with EFCC and said, okay, pros, I know that this is your areas of competence. Financial issues are areas of competence, your areas of competence. Now, we want to take up this. And there should be some level of collaborations between the two agencies. In terms of information gathering and the rest of it, even training and the rest of it. EFCC are bringing...
Including the police. The police should be an anti-corruption agency, is it not?
The police have an anti-fraud unit.
Yes. In fact, security agencies.
Yes, the police have an anti-fraud. So they should be able to identify with the security agencies and say, please, this is the problem. The country, the economy is bleeding. The economy is bleeding. And we don't seem to be having enough.
That's why it's believed that the army is even seeking support of the EFCC to fight corruption as well. But then it seems to boil down to political will. If you are not ready to do it,
I said the president.
Things will happen differently.
Listen to me. Yes, listen to me. The buck stops on the table of the man. If the president comes today and says, okay, now NNPC, this is what I've heard. Tell me what has been happening. Call the GMD of NNPC. Tell me what is happening. This and they had consistently. The governors didn't want to touch what happened. They said between 2015 and now. Yes. So they were saying that just forget what happened in the past. Let us discuss what is happening now. Okay? And the president will be able to look at the GMD of NNPC. My friend, tell me what is happening. This is the records. These are the records you want to tell me. And if the man will not be able to give a good explanation, fire him.
How many people have been fired?
Well, that is a discussion.
All right, back to the question that I was going to ask. Is it safe, really, to say that oil is at the core of the battle that Nigeria is facing when it comes to corruption and the whole, politics, the kind of politics that we play, where it looks like the soul of Nigeria, which is oil that produces the golden egg, the soul of Nigeria is at the core. I mean, there's a battle for the soul of this country because of control of the oil resource.
Yes. I agree with you. The prayer of some of us is that this
oil should just dry up.
Just dry up. We'll be saying it, and we'll constantly say it. This oil, this is supposed to be something, supposed to be a blessing to this country. Go to UAE, go to Dubai, go to Saudi Arabia,
and the rest
and the other part of the world, where oil, even in some African countries,
Angola, go to Venezuela, it's not
Venezuela. Let's not go. No, don't mention Venezuela. Not good. Not good. No, that is a very bad example.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking at the positive ones and see what United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia. They don't have any other business that they are doing. Okay, UAE now, tourism, more of tourism. But let's look at Saudi Arabia.
Even Saudi Arabia is opening itself up gradually.
Saudi Arabia,
is opening itself up to new opportunities.
Okay, and go and see what they've developed with that. Since we developed, there was a point at which we were still young then, we were told that one of our presidents there Because although he came recently, I've been saying that no, under my regime there was no corruption. But
I actually gave them money. Yes, we did.
We did.
Nigeria gave them money.
Because you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Country, yes.
So good. So if you understand what I'm trying to say, you know that what we are calling is supposed to be a blessing to us.
But for him, it wasn't corruption. It's just about, look, we have so much money. The real problem is how do we spend it? And we discovered a way of spending it by helping other countries who needed the money. And they've been able to do well with it. So come to think of it, other countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, they've seen oil as a means to an end and not an end in itself. But somehow Nigeria has not been able to use oil and the advantages of being an oil-producing, oil-bearing oil nation to achieve other things in agriculture, in tourism, and the rest of it.
Oil brought about laziness to our leaders, to our nation, and to our people. Okay. Before that, you know that we were very strong in agriculture. When I was growing up, I remember when I used to go on vacation to Kano, where my dad was working there. We used to see those large pyramids of groundnuts.
Pyramids.
In the West, we have so much cocoa. In fact, I remember when I was a kid, my mom, who is from Ondo State, used to take me, my grandmom would take me to some cocoa farms at Ajibandele, those states. When I was a kid, that was how I got to know of those things. Then you come to the East. Where I come from, Obo, in Imo State, you will realize that palm oil was up. In fact, when we are growing up, as little as about 9-10 years, some of us already learning how to.
I actually knew how to make palm oil, but I've forgotten all of that.
Yes, you must remember, it was very simple. We cook those, before they cook it, then bring it, we pan it, we now start extracting that. Those were things that we were doing there.
So do you think that eventually the world would force Nigeria to diversify effectively, knowing that some countries are already looking in other directions to fuel their cars?
The United States have stopped importing oil from Nigeria. And that used to be one of our
without any apology.
And they said it. Even when they said it. So many other countries are going to follow. Electric cars are coming up. So until we learn to diversify our economy, very soon we are going to run into
and not just pay lip service to it, to actually
make sure
begin the process of diversifying our economy. Thank you very much, Chris Kende-Wando.
Thank you very much.
CEO of CKN News. Thank you.
Enjoy your weekend.
So much for joining
us. Have a wonderful weekend.